All right, welcome back. We are starting a term of court this week with pleas, and next week we had another trial term coming up. But obviously, if you follow this page, you've seen the destruction that an amount of water can make. We got it pretty bad in our office. Probably about 75% of our office space on the first floor has got to be fixed, and another spot that got it really bad was the jury assembly room. So county workers and companies like water damage people have been coming in working throughout the night. There's fans everywhere and they're fixing that stuff up. And I had said that we were not going to miss any court. I still don't believe we would. If you got a jury summons for next week, the 12th, you don't have to come to that. I talked with the clerk of court. Our top 4 or 5 cases pled. See, these rosters are put out 3 months in advance. And a lot of times people get on the trial roster, they get serious about pleading. And all of those had pled. The only thing left on a trial roster of 25 was about 4 cases at the bottom. And they were like one-day cases. If we were to have gone forward with a jury, those would have probably pled too. But the jury assembly room is toast. Going forward, what we'll do is we'll bring in the jury and take them up to courtroom 3B, which is the largest courtroom, and we'll be able to select out of there. So it really shouldn't have an impact on us, except being a big nuisance because we don't have enough office spaces. But we'll get through it. We've got a place where attorneys can come in. There's a fax machine there. There's phones there. All of their messages. The sheriff's office gave us a room to sort of workstation to work from. So we'll be able to do that. The attorneys will be working from home until the day before pleas or trials, and then they'll come in, and we've got a workstation set up in the sheriff's office. The clerk's office has given us some space in what used to be the law library. We've got a bunch of secretaries moved in down there. Last week, everybody was dressed down and coming to work in galoshes because it was boggy, muddy, wet. But we're through that now, and thank goodness for it. Also last week, when all of this happened on Monday night, I come in Tuesday morning to this, we were also trying a murder case, and with these little sit-downs, you know, I've always told you I want to be open and honest. I want to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last week we lost. I don't know when we've lost a murder trial in the past, but this one was one that didn't have any DNA. It didn't have any phone records. It didn't have a lot of the evidence that you would want in a substantial murder case. What it did have was the defendant telling his mama, "I did it." And the mama come in and she testified, "Yeah, he did tell me that. I did tell the police that, but I was lying." So the mama backed up. A lot of people backed up on the trial. You expect that to happen when you got family members. They are put in a really bad spot, having to come in and testify against their flesh and blood. So without something else, the jury cut Brandon Gore loose, and he had been accused of killing Portia and Dexter Cobb right outside of Aner. Now, we've got other pending charges, trafficking charges against Brandon Gore. So he's not out of the woods yet. But as for the murder, he was found not guilty of that, of the murder of Portia and Dexter Cobb. And that's a little bit of why. There was not a lot of evidence, and the statements that did come in made it a triable case, but obviously when family members back up, you've got a jury here, 12 people that don't know anybody. That's one of the qualifications for sitting there. If you're on the jury, you can't know an awful lot about the case. You can't be knowing the prosecutor's team, and you can't be knowing the defense team. So a clean slate. And it's hard to get 12 people that aren't really attached to it to be able to understand in a very small period of time, 3 or 4 days, what actually happened, especially with the rules of evidence. And look, I will be the first. I believe that there are reasons for the rules, so I'm not, sour grapes. I do believe that you should not be able to present hearsay in a case because we want to make sure we get it right. We thought we had it right with the killer being Brandon Gore, but the evidence as it formed up was shaky at best because it was family members who it's a given that they're going to back up when it comes to trial. One question I got this week is, why don't you go back and prosecute the people that backed up on the stand for perjury? That is not done. It would have to be a very egregious case of perjury, and you just have to go on to the drug case and try him for drugs. So I mentioned the trafficking. Let me give you a little bit more detail on trafficking cases. Trafficking doesn't really mean Pablo Escobar coming over from Mexico with mules and all of that. Trafficking is simply a way of describing an amount of drugs, just simple possession of drugs. However, the possession of those drugs is such an amount that it hits the trafficking statute. So if you had a whole brick of drugs, that is more than having a personal use amount of drugs. In this case, they have charged him, the police charged him with trafficking weight drugs, and that charge carries with it a 25-year sentence. So we get it all the time. We've discussed it even on here. Why do you look for such large sentences with drugs? And I've told you way before this video came out, sometimes you've got a real bad actor, a real bad player, just like in what they did with Al Capone back in the day. He never got convicted for killing half of California. Al Capone went to prison for tax evasion, and sometimes you have to do whatever you have to do to protect the community. So he's got some trafficking charges that he will have to account for, and we'll see where that goes. Those are newer charges. Anyway, have a great week, and we'll get back together next week.